Roscoe from Amazing EV, and welcome to part 2 of our series with Mark Rainford, our man in China from Inside China Auto.
This is Inside China Auto.
But tonight's going to give us another fantastic update of what's going on in the Chinese EV market so far in 2025, and more importantly, what's next for the Australian market from China.
They're the best looking cars, I think, in China, by the way, the Avatr ones. So I hope you get those. It's got loads of space, very, very, very cool car. People didn't trust the local brands so much. That's all changed, and Porsche have decided to give up completely. I mean, what are they going to take from you? That you drive to McDonald's before you go to work every day?
Mark, how are you? Good to see you again.
Very good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, we've been great. I think it's been a month since we last spoke to you, and I guess so much is happening. We've had Chinese New Year. I think you've moved, and I think some soon new secret destination, and so much EV news overseas, I guess. But let's start with the sales. And some of the information I had in some of the reports I've seen suggest that EV sales are dropping, or car sales are dropping. But that's a regular thing at this time of year, isn't it?
In China, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, with around Chinese New Year, every year it's on the lunar calendar. So sometimes it's the end of January, sometimes it's in February. And it's always affected. You know, the peak is at the end of December, then January and February, it just kind of, the bottom end falls out the market. Actually, February has been pretty decent. Most of Chinese New Year was in the end of January this year. And some brands have done pretty well. Xpeng in particular have had 2 cracking months for the start of the year. Neo, on the other hand, not quite so well. They've been going down a bit. Zeekr had a really good month after a bad January. So, yeah, no, the sales are going up. It's just January, February, same thing every year, always falls apart.
Another interesting thing I thought was a really fascinating trend was that, whereas the Europeans had a strong foothold in the Chinese market for luxury in particular, the share of the Chinese brands in China has increased dramatically at the expense of the Europeans. Have you noticed that as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the numbers are going down. Volkswagen's pretty much the mainstream one. Everyone else kind of sits in the premium segment. But BMW, Mercedes, Audi, they've all been hit recently. I mean, their cars in some cases are almost 3 times more expensive than the Chinese equivalents. And I think they never thought that China would ever make luxurious cars. But now you can get Zeekrs and Neos and Li Autos. They're coming in at amazing price points with twice the spec, if not more. You know, they've got all these included features. The foreign brands, they used to sell on their badge. The badge was the sign that they were trusted and they were quality, and people didn't trust the local brands so much. That's all changed. And the demographic, the young demographic that now see the cars coming out of China and the quality of them, and plus the tech that they can get in them, they're now going, hey, I can buy my own country's brand now, and this is better, and it costs me less. You know, you can pick up a Xiaomi for a third of the price of a Taycan or something like that. And they just launched the Xiaomi 27 Ultra, which is even better. This incredible sports car for about $500,000, just over $500,000 RMB, I think, over here, which is a ridiculous price. And the international brands, they just can't compete with that.
The main structure, going back a while, I guess, was a joint venture between those companies and a Chinese brand. That was the entree, wasn't it? Apart from Tesla, which was a bit of an exception, yeah?
Yeah, Tesla was the first one that came in as 100%. And that was kind of a move by the Chinese government to really say, okay, these joint ventures are not achieving what we want them to.
Yeah.
So now you've got to fight for it. You've got to step up your game to their own manufacturers. If you're working with Mercedes, you're working with BMW, you've got to start doing something with that technology. And obviously, it worked really well for Tesla. That's not done very well for them. Yeah. I think Lexus is going to become only the second brand to have a 100% owned factory in Shanghai. That's been announced last month, I think it was. Now the other guys have got to catch up. BMW have got to start using their local knowledge. Obviously, you've seen Audi launching a local brand here, a second Audi, with their Chinese partners. So they've really got to start working much more closely with those partners now and finding a way to be competitive.
Is it a case of the servant becoming the master in some cases? They've just out-teched them completely, yeah?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, we saw it happen before in the car industry. The Japanese came and they copied the designs of the European brands, and they were done better, more reliable.
Yeah.
And the Koreans came, did the same thing, and now the Chinese are doing it. And obviously they've got a massive scale. And with the shift to EV and the control over the supply chain near enough, they've just got so much more momentum and power behind them.
And I was really fascinated last time with the distinction you made between state-owned EV companies or state-owned auto companies and startups, right? So I just wanted to explore a bit more about that, because we've got a whole plethora of cars coming to Australia now, all sorts of brands, all sorts of models, and then from all sorts of companies. there's a big mishmash between what's a company, what's a brand. I just thought it was worth digging a bit deeper into probably two broader categories: a state-owned type of company and a startup, I guess. And the example I've got probably for a startup is a company like this just come to Australia is Xpeng or Xiaopeng. And so that's only been around 10 years or something. That's a really new startup for a company that's done incredible things in a short space of time. So tell me a bit more about that. And we've so far we've got the G6 come to Australia. That's all so far. But yeah, what do you see on the horizon?
Yeah, so obviously Xiaopeng, as you said, 10 years old. I think they celebrated their 10-year birthday just at the end of last year, I think it was, or the start of this year. And they kind of came up at the same time as Li Auto and NIO. They're all kind of in that 10-year-old category.
Yeah.
NIO celebrated their 10 years last year. And obviously, for the first 4 or 5 years, they probably didn't make any cars. They were just kind of getting their stuff together and producing stuff. But as you said, the last few years, they've really kind of taken off. The technology has improved. In the case of Xiaopeng, they've had a few things that have been kind of world first. So they had the world's first production car with LIDAR fitted.
Okay.
On the P5. It wasn't a great car, but it had LiDAR fitted on, and it was the first one to have city autonomous driving. So they were able to do autonomous driving in a few select cities. But that's interesting because Xpeng have just gone to vision-based, not vision only, but vision-based. So rather than Tesla, who just use cameras only, Xpeng have gone for cameras and ultrasonic radars. So they're starting to take the LiDAR off their cars now. The ones that they sell abroad, so the G6 that you have in Australia, doesn't come with LiDAR. Their kind of thinking behind that is that they've now got a bunch of cars equipped with the technology to basically have an over-the-air update to include XNGP, which is their kind of their autonomous driving software, in other markets as well. So they don't necessarily have to have LiDAR. They'll be able to upgrade those and use them with the camera base and the radar functions. So I've just put a video out on my channel testing out their latest autonomous driving software.
Welcome to Inside China Auto. Welcome to another autonomous driving video. Today, we're going to be testing out the latest XNGP system on this car here, which is the Xpeng P7 Plus. We drove this last year, got a full review of that on the channel. You can see that up in the top corner of the video. But this is the car that we're going to be trying today. As you will see, unlike other Xpeng cars, there are a couple in the car park. Unlike those, this one doesn't have any LiDAR units. This is a vision-based system, much like on that Tesla over there. So, going to be doing a little drive around Guangzhou. We're going to get in the car. All the cameras are set up. Going to get in the car, and we're going to set the route manually so you can all see what route I'm setting. I'm going to try and get a mix of U-turns. There's some U-turns on this road here we can try. So some U-turns, some roundabouts, a little bit of kind of high-speed driving, some more dense area driving, really get a mix of roads and see just how well the system does. So let's get into it. All right, there he's waiting. This is like heart in mouth stuff, this. Go on, the BMW's gone now. Okay, good, good, good. That BMW's been very cautious, almost as cautious as the car is. Nothing coming. So it's achieved the U-turn and headed over here as well.
We'll do a shameless plug for Mark's channel at Inside China Auto, which has got a lot more followers than we have. But yeah, I saw that you had just done what sort of experience was that?
It was really good. I mean, I've tested XNGP before, previously on LiDAR models. So I tried it on the P5, the first car that came with it. Tried it with the G6 about a year and a half ago, and the X9 MPV, which hopefully will be coming to Australia, by the way, in terms of looking forward and that side of things. But yeah, the P7 Plus is the first one without the LiDAR units. Honestly, it was the smoothest experience I've had, which is not the easiest thing to achieve in Guangzhou because there's a lot of construction there. The roads change all the time. But it was really, really smooth. It only kind of messed up a little bit on U-turns. So there was a couple of U-turns where the roadworks made it a bit more difficult to get where it wanted to go. But on the whole, it was super smooth. And as well as that, I then did another video for it on the electric Viking, and that was more a highway and a high-speed road-based one. Yeah. And I literally only touched the steering wheel once, apart from the ETC, to go through the toll booth to avoid another car that almost drove into me. But the car did it all by itself. That's about a whole hour of driving. So it's really, really good. Fantastic system.
And I'm not sure when that's on the horizon for Australia, but it's just incredible to know that the technology is there. We've seen it in the Teslas, and now, yeah, it's full on in China.
There's been a few mixed comments about the China, the Tesla FSD in China, about whether some people said it drives like an old American who's come to China for the first time. Some guy got about 12 traffic violations by driving through red lights and driving in bus lanes and stuff at the wrong time. So it's got some localization to do, but they've taught it based on only videos they found online. So, until they can get their own data centers, it will struggle a little bit, I think.
And yeah, Xpeng, as we know it here in Australia, which it clearly is a bit of an anglicisation of Xiaopeng.
Yeah.
And I'll put the website up. You can go to their website .com and see all the model range there. And they've got display centres here, and it's just come out of nowhere as a brand here in Australia. But they've done a great job. What do you think will be the next off the cab rank here for Xpeng?
Yeah, I have a feeling X9 might be ready to go. I mean, Zeekr have gone with 009. I know Denza have suggested they're going to bring the D9, which is their MPV, and they just launched the right-hand drive X9 in Thailand.
Okay.
So now that they've got it in right-hand drive markets, it's also in Hong Kong as well. So I think Australia will almost certainly get the X9 at some point, and then I think P7 Plus would probably be the first one up next, which is the one I just drove. I mentioned about. And then they've got the G7, which comes out at the end of this month, and that will probably that's an SUV similar to the G6, but maybe bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe it's hard to work out where it fits compared to G6 actually, because the P7 Plus is really quite affordable. G6 has just been updated itself, so I've asked them, by the way, when they're going to when you guys are going to get the updated version, and they're going to let me know. So I don't know yet, but I have asked the question.
They've hinted that they've got more on the cards for sure. They've really got big plans for Australia, so it's fantastic to see because they're fully committed, and it's a fantastic brand, and they've done a hell of a lot of work. So again, from a startup, they've got the flying car there as well, right? They've got on display. They've got one. It's just, I mean, so full commitment and an outstanding brand, and I've had a look at it, and to me the G6 is very very similar in size and in capacity and to the Tesla Model Y, right? It's huge inside, and I think they've sold well over 1,000 already from a standing start. So the other major car brand or car manufacturer are the state-owned companies. I'm trying to imagine like the state of New South Wales owning its own car company, right? But it's sort of equivalent with a company like Changan. Is that how you say it?
Changan, yeah.
That would
Yes,
be like,
I mean,
that would be like the New South Wales government owning a car company, yeah, something like that.
yeah. I think also actually the overall government has a hand in it as well. So I'm not entirely sure what the breakdown is, but yeah, it basically means that the government has a hand in there somehow. And government, as I think in most countries, it's not just like CCP runs the whole country. Each state, as you said, they get control some elements of their own kind of fortunes, let's say.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's say the Changan, they come from Chongqing, which is kind of in Sichuan province, but is its own special administrative region.
Well
inland, yeah.
Into the west, right? Yeah.
Right in the middle, yeah. So yeah, I mean, Changan, obviously, they're actually technically China's oldest car manufacturer, but they started making passenger vehicles in 1959. So they've been around for quite a long time now. Before that, they were back in the 1800s. So they've done that whole kind of process.
Should we be worried about Chinese state-owned car companies spying on us, or not? Should we be worried?
Honestly,
is it a real thing or not?
I honestly don't believe so, because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, what are they going to take from you? That you drive to McDonald's before you go to work every day? That you listen to rock 80s radio, something like that? What are they going to find out from you from driving? And if it actually came out, they would never sell another car abroad ever again. It's it's the antithesis of what they want to do. They want to sell cars abroad.
Because we've got the Deepal here, which confused people because it sounds like an Indian name, and I'm not. It's not being too racist, but or countryist, but yeah, people have been slightly confused by that. Again, there was a big commitment and a big launch here, and that came out of nowhere. But people just didn't realize it come from a company or a business that's been around for 50 years making cars, right? And so you're just completely unaware, right? No idea. No, okay, here's a brand new car that's got maybe it looks fantastic, maybe this not quite right, or this isn't, but it's been around forever. And I think the other one, Avatr, is another major brand from them as well, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So Avatr has Changan as part of their ownership structure alongside Huawei and CATL. So two massive names there in technology as
Yeah,
well. They're the best looking cars, I think, in China. This is where we get into the question about kind of companies and brands, right? So, Changan has quite a few brands under its umbrella. They've got
yeah,
Chiyuan. So actually, one of the cars they're bringing to Australia, they just announced is the E07.
yeah.
And that's badged as a Chiyuan in China. It sounds like it's going to come to Australia as a Deepal. There were rumors it was going to be called Nevo abroad as well. So, a lot of the Chinese brand situation is always a funny one.
That's
They
the that's
throw
the
names around everywhere.
that's the SUV Ute one that we've seen that in one of your walkarounds last year, right? That's that
Yeah,
SUV Ute looking things. That's confirmed for Australia for a start. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. It's a very unusual car, that one, I think, especially for a Chinese company. Pickups were never really a thing here. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's, yeah, it's like a car mixed with a pickup truck
Yeah.
somehow. So it's got kind of a powered glass roof that slides out the way and you can do both things with it.
It might be perfect for the Australian market because there's now about 12 different Utes available here. Such is the strength, or such was the strength of the Ute market between Ranger and Hilux. Yeah, now there's about 10 or 12 different Utes available here. So
Yeah.
now we've got oversupply. It's just ridiculous.
I haven't driven it yet. I've been asking Changan if I can get hold of one to give it a go because it is so interesting. I'm doubting it's going to be quite so much of a workhorse as
Yeah.
like a BYD Shark, for example. It's probably going to be more of a leisure pickup truck, I would say. I haven't checked out the statistics on towing loads and carrying loads and stuff like that, but it does seem more like a lifestyle vehicle, I would say.
Yeah, I know. It's a soft roader. Yeah, look, we've got the BYD Shark here, the hybrid, and look, the market's probably ready. It is ready for a full EV Ute, but that's another story for another day because the market doesn't think it is, so the manufacturers haven't bothered. But they would be and they could be if they wanted to be, but BYD have gone down the hybrid route there at the moment. So that's another, so let's say that's another story for another day. But yeah, so that's fascinating about that brand. Further confusing things, Geely have owned Volvo, Polestar, a number of different other brands, Lotus as well, of course, overseas, and different brands as well, different car brands like Zeekr as well. And
Yeah.
now they've just launched here under their own name as well, right? So
Yeah.
not only have they got a number of competitive offerings here in Australia, but yeah, as the brand itself, they've just launched the X5.
It's five, yeah.
And that's being offered through normal dealerships as well. So interesting that a Stellantis dealership that I was at, I've got a client of mine actually just bought a 500e. They've just dropped the price by about half, down to 38,990 drive away.
Yeah.
So, and they're an older couple, and it just makes perfect sense as a second car. He's got a big GL Merc, and so they've had 500s before. So I finally got him into it, and they just love it. But yeah, I was up at a Stellantis dealership, and they had both the Geely and the Leapmotor. To make things more interesting here, the Stellantis dealerships are distributing Leapmotor. Okay, so on it goes, and next time we'll dig even deeper. But look, anything else that you've seen that you can share with us about the latest news? What are you looking at next? Can you share that with us? If you want to go over to Mark's channel, you might get a little bit of a preview or not. I'm not sure. So
Yeah. No, I've just driven the BYD Seal 06 GT, so that might make it to Australia. They haven't actually said where it's going to go, but when they launched it in Chengdu last year, the production model, they pretty much didn't even care about telling the Chinese people about it because it's not, Chinese don't really buy it as that kind of car as much. It's definitely more made for European markets because they like hatchbacks, and it might do well kind of up against the Corolla and things like that in Australia. So it could well get announced there at some point, but just not yet.
So that's a hatchback sort of estate style in the same platform, basically.
Yeah. So it's hatchback style, so it's a bit shorter than the Seal Saloon. Although it's quite a bit bigger than a Volkswagen Golf. So it's about 34 centimeters longer than a Golf. So actually, on camera it looks like a hatchback, but it's definitely bigger. But they actually have an estate version that's been spied, so that there will be an estate version of it as well, which is even longer. So that'll be much more like a Seal Saloon estate version, let's say.
Johnny Smith will be thrilled because there's only one other estate EV on the market over there, and he loves an estate, so he'll be thrilled that there's two now. Something MG.
Yeah, definitely more on the way. Definitely more on the way.
Yeah.
Zeekr have got the 007 GT as well. That's coming out. That's a very sexy looking. So yeah, the electric estates are coming.
And what else have you seen that you can share?
So yeah, I've just been driving the icar V23 last week, which is a really funky. Again, looks a bit like a Jimny, quite a bit bigger than a Jimny, about 4.2 meters long. It's full electric. It's from so icar is a brand of Chery.
Okay.
So Chery, obviously, they sell cars in Australia. It may come, if it comes to Australia, badged as a Jaecoo rather than icar.
Yeah.
But if they have kind of trademark issues abroad, but they sold their other car in the Philippines as a Jaecoo, so it may end up going to Australia as a Jaecoo if it does, and it should do because it's super cool. It's like a mix of retro, modern off-road style and really chunky. Bit of G-Wagon in there, bit of Land Rover Defender, bit of this old Chinese off-roader that had these kind of narrow headlights in the middle. It's really, really funky, very cool. It's got rubbish highway efficiency, but in town it's really good. Loads of space. Very, very, very cool car.
And catch Mark at Inside China Auto on YouTube as well. And when's the next show walk around? When's the show season start to kick off in China?
So the big one is Shanghai in end of April.
Okay.
So it's about April 23rd is the first media day. So my video should be out about April 25th. It's going to be a big one. It's about 3.5 hours long, or it was last time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and do it in 4K this year, which is going to be a stretch for my camera, but well.
Good, look forward to that, and hopefully we can catch up before then, and we might get an update from Mark before that, and maybe a bit of a preview he might have at that stage as to what's coming up at the Shanghai Auto Show. So thanks again, Mark, and look forward to seeing you next time.
No worries.